welcome to the SRA podcast. I'm Faye, pronouns she, her, and I'm here today with the fine people of Tenacious Unicorn Ranch, a sort of trans commune agricultural project out in Colorado. So I'm here with some of the group's main organizers. Why don't you all go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Okay, I'm Bonnie, EM Ayers, or you could just use my name. I'm a second in command here. We do a lot with animals and such.
And I'm Penny. I kind of captain the show up here and keep things on the rails as much as possible. And my pronouns are she, her, hers.
And I'm Jay. I'm she, they. I'm sort of the permaculture person. I'll be in charge of the food production once we get some greenhouses and a mushroom farm and that sort of thing going. So
awesome. So for folks who haven't heard of it, Tenacious Unicorn Ranch is, how would you describe the project, like overall, your sort of overall intent and what you've accomplished so far?
Well, we're a trans owned and operated collective and also a haven, but we're also a full-time ranch. We have alpaca is our main herd. We have we're over 90 head of alpaca now, almost at 100.
Wow.
We have 30 sheep. We have chickens and ducks of varying, flocks go up and down. And then we have, 8 dogs, right? And 5 cats, and it's a whole show going on. But we also do side businesses like in town, like we work with the local Amish. We also do like handy woman chores around town for people. So it's, there's multiple layers to what we do, all with the intent of giving trans people a safe place to not only just like survive, but actually thrive and do something in the world and like feel good about ourselves as like trans people negotiating the world, like as opposed to fearfully like, just living in a cis world. Like we're living in our own world here.
Nice. So how did this project get started? What was the sort of driving impetus, and I guess what were the sort of difficulties that you overcame to get it up and running?
Well, I mean, very much so. Me and 2 of my girlfriends we're just kind of like living our lives, and then the election happened, and Trump got into office, and just we really, really saw the writing on the wall with like the way that rhetoric was changing so quickly, how nasty like the ramp up to the election was, how just damaging it was for like queer people in specific. And we didn't really think it was going to get any better. So we just tried to start coming up with ways to like not only kind of save ourselves, but bring that kind of safety net to queer people as well. And so we eventually landed on ranch because a ranch became available to rent. And I had done a lot of ranching in my life, growing up. And as soon as the opportunity hit, I sold my house. We moved up to that first ranch, and that was the mission. It was like, let's get as many trans people up here safe and employed doing something awesome as we can before things get truly untenable.
Absolutely. And I definitely think that getting out of, especially some of the redder states, getting into an inclusive environment, even if it's, a relatively small one, I think is definitely a good resource to have. So I guess one thing I'm curious about is why alpacas?
Well, it was funny. Like the flippant answer is because they're the cutest things on 4 legs. Like, but really, it was. If you look at like fiber production and what are like the easier animals to take care of to produce fiber and turn it into yarn and things like that, alpaca are up there on the list of the easier ones. Definitely not the traditional one, but like alpaca fiber is kind of awesome. And there's a big market for it. And that market kind of stays whether it's good times or bad times, because it's like kind of a craft item, like it's a mainstay item. And so we looked at that and weighed it against like all the other kinds of animals, and alpacas just kind of won because of like the cuteness and durability factor. We also didn't want to do animals that you kill for your main herd, and you keep alpacas their whole life, like if you do them for fibers. So
yeah, and that absolutely makes sense. over going with something that's, more of an animal that you burn through. So this sort of idea of, would you describe yourselves as a commune, or how would you describe your group?
Yeah, I would definitely feel comfortable with commune. We have a multi-tiered like finance system, but the bulk of it is shared, and we're all kind of doing our part to contribute to that whatever way we can.
How many people are living in the ranch right now?
So 5 people are officially living in the building, which is well within code. And then we do have people that come visit in trailers, and that those numbers vary. But it's like people come up to help, or people need a place to stay, and we have the trailers and they stay in there. So the numbers kind of fluctuate, but it's like around 8 people in the summer, 9 sometimes.
And I've noticed in other interviews that you've done for news outlets and such, there's been a discussion about the huge amount of interest of people who are interested in coming out and, living on the ranch, working on the ranch. I think I remember the number around 50 people on your wait list currently. What's that sort of situation like, having so many people who are interested in this, but not necessarily being able to accommodate them all?
Well, it's heart-wrenching. Like,
Yeah.
we get letters every day from people who are in just dire situations that, like, if we could set up tents feasibly, we would get people up here. It's really harrowing. Like, we're now doing fundraising for the next phase. Like, we introduced the trailers as our growth phase, but like, people are ready to come here. Like, our story is a story of people hearing about us, then showing up the next week and making this happen. Bonnie heard about us, and then it was like 2 weeks later, she moved from New York with her husband and landed here. Jay was in Texas, just heard about us, then 2 days later drove up with all our stuff. And it's just been like, that's been our story. So as we get more on the map and bigots become a little bit more emboldened, like in reporting us to like the county and things, like we're in kind of an ongoing doxing battle where they're trying to like find weird zoning rules to get us in trouble. So we're really careful about what we like, put out into the world. But our next phase of growth is to get 2 more pieces of land out here so that we can expand a sewer system that they can't complain about, and just get ahead of the bigots, because that's the stupid game we're playing now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I heard that you originally had a plot of land in eastern Colorado and then were sort of forced to move to western Colorado for similar issues. Is that more or less what happened?
It's north and south, but
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
that's all right. Yeah, well, we were in a situation where Penny mentioned that she found a ranch that we could rent, and we had all kinds of agreements, or like we there was an understanding to some degree with the landlords that we might be able to buy the house, and that
And
rent
they
was going towards it.
explicitly had said our rent was going towards the down payment on purchasing that ranch, because I was in a position where I just sold my home and I didn't want to like pay rent. You know what I mean? Like, we couldn't buy it right then. We had to wait. We were trying to wait a full year, which they agreed to. Anyway, all of this like really weird stuff. They agreed to what sounded like a fair deal. And then at the end of it, it was just like, it just became a nightmare. Like, they kept raising our rent because they would get angry at us for complaining about them. Like,
Yeah, we
was-
were using the story to fundraise, and then I got like angry tweets with the landlord's name attached to their Twitter account. I was just like, well, I have to delete your comments and block you entirely, because I can't I can't have you doxing yourself on my
right?
page.
Like, yeah, this is only going to bring harm to you, you idiot. Like, and so we've been pretty respectful about keeping them like, their stuff private. Like, we don't want to put it was I think just a weird series of boomer mentality and landlording
Yeah.
running together in that toxic mix that it is. But at the end of the day, we had to get out of there. It was killing us. Like, it was really, really rough.
It just cost too much to do anything.
And they wouldn't let us build new structures, so it was actually getting hard on the animals, because like the winters were bad and the heat there was really, really awful. So the move was like, whereas it was like horrifying and long and right in the middle of a pandemic, it was the best move for the ranch. We've run into so much more opportunity here. Like not we've run into more strife. Like we used to get doxxed pretty regularly at the other ranch. This is a lot more red of a county. And so we do run up against, quick fire bigotry a lot more. But that's, that's why we're here. Can I say fuck it? Like,
Yeah.
This is not a Christian podcast. Swear if you like. So yeah, and speaking of that sort of, as you said, quickfire bigotry, because this is the SRA podcast, I'm sure a lot of people will be, concerned about and interested in your ability to defend yourselves from physical attack. And, obviously don't disclose too much because this is public and all that, but have you felt the need to prepare to defend yourself against the possibility of, violence being in such a red county and being such a sore thumb,
Yeah, well, I mean, I carry every day. I open carry. As we get more and more pistols up here and people get better trained, all of us will start to carry. It's intense. I carry a 5.7, FN 5.7 as my daily carry. 20 round magazine, full size. That like open carrying grants you like permission to just wear your full size pistol instead of trying to do a purse gun or something, and I take advantage of that. I love my 5.7. Bonnie and everybody else we're looking at getting them 5.7s to keep ammo consistent, but they're thinking about getting the Ruger 5.7s or 57. The Ruger 57 is what they call it. It's a different and it's a great solid gun. The 5.7 round out of a pistol is hands down one of the best rounds I've fired. And then we also have, well, I mean, Bonnie's a trained, Bonnie's a trained markswoman. Like she didn't go to sniper school or anything like that, but she does have a 300 Win Mag Ruger Precision that's rated up to like
Nice.
a mile and a half.
Okay. What was it? The ammunition itself is rated for 1,200 yards.
1,200 yards, yeah.
Yeah. So I happened to take 3 years of riflery in high school. So I've always been open-minded to accuracy and making each shot count. I've actually shot other rifles and not really enjoyed it nearly as much because it's more just get fire down.
Yeah, Bonnie wasn't always super excited about guns, but now that it's become necessary, she just kind of went for it and we set her up with something that like uses her skills,
Yeah.
So no, we are really, really cognizant up here about firearms and the safety net that they provide, especially as, I mean, a group of trans women anywhere draws a lot of attention and a lot of hate. When you're in a red county, it becomes really apparent. There's lovely people. I don't want to say that like the town of Westcliff is all Nazis, because I don't believe that. You know what I mean? Like that's not true.
That's not our experience.
No, at all. Like Westcliff is an
Yeah.
open and warm place that has a couple of weirdos that make it uncomfortable for everybody. Like that's as with any freaking city, town, state, like
Yeah, there's always some weird assholes making it shitty for everyone.
There's always your Nazi uncle you gotta just fucking punch every Halloween.
So I guess sort of expanding on that theme of defending your community, a lot of people are also interested in the idea of self-sufficiency. Would you say that Tenacious Unicorn Ranch is self-sufficient, or is that a goal of yours that you're striving towards?
Yeah, we can all talk to that, I think. So yeah, we are well on the path to self-sufficient. We are off grid. We bought this place off grid, and we are on a well. We're trying to wean ourselves off of propane, but you have to throw money at that problem, and that's a slow process for us. At this point, it'll get easier in the future. But then the food self-sufficiency is the big next step, and that's where Jay comes in heavily. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we're gonna be starting out 40 foot by 10 foot, maybe more.
12 at least, yeah, 40 by 12.
We're still deciding on the model of greenhouse, whether it's buried or half buried or whatnot. We gotta figure all that stuff out. But so yeah, 40 by 12 foot greenhouse, and once you get do like companion planting in guilds, you can get serious food production going all year round. We'll probably have like some supplemental grow lights for the winter and things like that. But yeah, and it'll also, things like that also ties into the odd jobs we're doing in the community and can help us, you know, kind of sustain ourselves through funding by just whatever surplus vegetables we have that we're not eating or canning or whatever. We're planning on, you know, just bringing them up to these, you know, older ladies who
don't need to be exposing themselves to the grocery store or,
especially during COVID.
Yeah.
And there's other things like I'm a big fan of at Build Soil on Twitter. And once we get some, you know, a good place that's kind of safe from all the animals, I'm going to be growing a ton of Azolla, which is kind of a miracle aquatic fern that's nitrogen fixing and all that stuff. So.
And that's the self-sufficient. We want this to be a self-sustained unit, like but in an environmentally conscious way. We also have like meat production animals, so we can cover all those bases nutritionally as well. And we have like we have ducks and chickens, so we get like that varied diet and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we really, really don't want to be dependent on anything outside of the ranch here shortly.
And alpaca poop makes fantastic compost, very high in nitrogen and phosphorus and things. So it really like, and they put out a bunch of it and they kind of collected, they're a little smarter than sheep. They collect it all in little spots.
Yeah, they have piles, so it's really easy to collect.
So we can literally just throw that in the compost waste system and have like chickens and ducks scratching through it and adding their poop to it. And then just funnel all that straight back into food production. It's fantastic.
And then we're getting, we have sheep, we have alpaca, we're getting llamas, we have cashmere goats, and we'll be eventually stepping into Angora bunnies. And then we'll have our own mill on site, hopefully by 2025. I don't know if things are going to hang together that long, but that's what we're hoping. And if we do, then we have all of the major needs. We can produce clothing, food, and we have untaintable source of water, and we feel, pretty good about our just kind of existence at that point.
Nice. I also wanted to ask about housing, because I noticed from a picture y'all posted a while back that it seems like your main house is actually a sort of geodesic dome that you've built. So how did that come about?
Well, we bought it. Me and Bonnie found a dome house that we fell in love with in northern Colorado, but it was just like kind of untenable and up a dirt road that you couldn't get to year round and stuff. So we kind of given up the dream of a dome home. And then we found Westcliff, and then we just like stumbled into this amazing place. But no, this one was built in the 1900s.
No, 1980.
80, okay.
89.
I always get that. Yeah,
Sorry.
like it was either way long. Yeah, I was like, never mind. That's a big difference. So this one was built in the 80s, and yeah, we purchased it, and it is so much fun. Like, it's like, I mean, aside from the cool like heating properties and stuff, like ecological, like it preserves heat and stuff like that, but also just architecturally, it is an amazing, fun place to live. It really
it does some really cool like audio type things too. Like you'll hear stuff like right next to you that's actually on the other end of the dome.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like it's really, really fun. We were shocked and amazed when we found it. As soon as we saw it, we fell in love. Like it wasn't perfect for us. It really wasn't. Like it was in our price range, but then there's a lot. Like it was a little too small. It was a little, it wasn't fenced. We had to freaking do that in the snowstorms that kept hitting us. But like it was so Star Wars that we couldn't pass it up.
Yeah, there was a lot of things that brought us to conclude that this was the house, and a lot of that is actually Westcliff, the mountains here. That they're outrageous. Unfortunately, we can't see them right now because of the stupid smoke and all the fires everywhere. But we fell in love before we even saw the house.
Yeah, we really did. The town is quaint and just like old. It's got like the one main street that's really the town, and it's like got the storefronts. I don't know. It's just neat. Like it just is. People are friendly. Like it's very much a Colorado mountain town. Like everybody waves like when you drive past each other, and you meet up at the local coffee shop. That's where everybody meets up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's an airport 5 minutes away, and both me and Bonnie have wanted to get our pilot's license forever. So it's like, oh my God, not only can we do it, it's also like viable, like, because it makes business sense to maybe have a small plane and maybe go fly instead of, whatever. Like, so even before we arrived at the house, we fell in love with the area. It's also away from everything, which is
Oh,
nice.
yeah. So Westcliff is a moderate-sized town. It's got like a good store. Everything's a bit expensive,
It's
but
800 people.
but like that's like 20 minutes away versus every other like closer to a city-sized thing is at least an hour and a half.
Which just feels good. And
Yeah.
there's a range of mountains on both sides. We're in a valley, so
It's pretty well protected.
it's pretty well. It just feels good. Like, I don't know.
So, with the obvious bigots aside from them, have you had, any luck with forming strong connections with the local community?
Oh goodness, yeah. We are so like we're overwhelmed by how cool kind of people are out here. So we work with the Amish community. We have people there that so they can't drive. Like if they have a job that requires them to be different places, they can't do a car. Like there's some things they can't compromise on. And so we kind of step in and drive them to like the work sites and stuff so they can do work. That's one of the jobs that we do. So we're kind of there's two major Amish communities up here, and we're just kind of getting to know them, and we feel pretty good about getting to know them. Like, all like just religion and everything aside, they're good. They're neat people, and they're not too judgy, and so we really like being around them.
They're non-confrontational, which is wonderful.
Which is really nice, yeah. And then we do handywoman stuff around town for just people who need help, like around the house, or people that have lost someone and are finding like a lot of work on their plate that they can't handle and stuff like that. And we do like, we build stairs and we make tables and we do gardening and all that kind of stuff, just general handywoman stuff. And so we're in oh, well, no, I don't, because okay. But we like we're in people's homes, like they love us, like we're booked 3 months out at this point at a time. Like,
oh wow,
if we had more people, we would have. That's why we're in such a rush to get more land so we can get more people up here. We have enough work to support a solid like 6 more people. We could keep 6 people busy all day. We get well above what should be the minimum wage of $15 an hour. Like we do good on hourly, and it's fun work for people who are excited to have you there. Yeah. Like this community has really opened its arms for us. Like, we feel really, really encouraged by how awesome people are. Like, aside from just like, the people who want to make it difficult and the groups up here that are kind of like opposed to us. That sounds like too epic. Like just annoyed that we are alive, Yeah. But like there's so many people that have just like really, really like gotten excited about what we're doing up here. So yeah. Oh, and then our best friend Anne lives up here, and she's another alpaca rancher. She moved from around Loveland Berthoud at the exact same time that we moved. And so we've been going through this whole thing together, and she's amazing. And has a herd just a little bit smaller than ours, but not much smaller. No, and has been doing it for like 20 years, and she's just super smart and like, So we have really great community up here.
Nice. So another sort of thing I noticed is you mentioned on Twitter finally getting, I believe it was satellite internet a while back. Has there been a bit of a technology shock for anyone moving away from high-speed internet access out to rural Colorado? Has there been any issues with that?
It certainly has been. Oddly enough, I would say it was actually worse than our previous location because we didn't have cell phone internet of any kind or any signal to be. Like it just the only way we could use our phones was through the satellite internet that we had at that location. So not only was it slow to begin with, but everyone was using it for everything. So yeah, there's some adjustment to be had. I think a lot of us, mostly in charge, were already kind of pulling away from like the full-on internet life, but like it's been hard for some. that are up here to really make that adjustment.
It's like a 2-week detox. Like, it, not that like cell phones and being on the computer is toxic, but it really, like, there's a cycle. People, having been here from like the beginning and watching it happen a couple of times, people, especially at the old place where like you didn't have your cell phone and like internet was super crap, people are just like, oh, like really irritated. Like the first 4 days, they just like yell at their phones a lot, and then people slowly step away from it. And then now that we're here, though, it's gotten a lot better. We have steady internet, and everybody's phone data works, and so it's not as shocking. It still is like, look, like we don't spend a lot of time, like we're out working 12 hours a day on the ranch or out on other jobs, so there really isn't a lot of time to just do just computer stuff. There's a lot of although actually it's not there's some people that like to just be on their computers too, so it's a whole mix up here. Like, I don't know.
For sure.
We keep ourselves busy most of the time, and with the between the cell phone signal and we actually had to change our internet from satellite. Still have to cancel that. It's like a $300 charge.
They get you coming and going.
Yeah. But we found a different service that was like direct Wi-Fi. So although we have a little satellite, it's not pointing to space. It's actually pointing to like an antenna somewhere near the airport.
Like a repeater.
Yeah.
And that's been like a miracle upgrade. And they're not throttling us like the other internet company. You had to like pay for data like it was it was horrible. But no, that's the one thing we feel like we finally started to get sorted. And then if we can get a taller pole or like a different, like once we get the different property, we'll be able to see the airport better, and then we get a better signal or something. I don't know. It's internet magic. We'll make it better one day.
So one of my next questions, I guess, would be, how does the economics of all this work, both in terms of, how do you make sure that the ranch stays profitable or at least breaks even, and then how do you deal with that internally and making sure that everyone's fairly compensated?
We look at that a lot. Like, it's really important to us. Bonnie is in charge of a lot of the finances.
Yeah, largely it does go individual by individual, because people will have different income sources or ways to be able to help to create finance for us all together. And but for the most part, it's whatever you can give it goes into the main pool. And if you can't give more than that, then you don't. We try to keep it as fair as feels right for everyone.
We don't put any demands on people. Like, once you're up here and you're a part of it, like, your participation is up to you. If you work for the ranch, like offsite, anything you do to like, taking care of the animals and stuff, that's all chores. Like, there isn't compensation for that. That's just, like, we all live here. And so it's all just part of that. But like, if you have a job off the ranch, like even with like with one of the ranch's clients where you're doing handiwork or whatever, you get paid the money for the day. And then what you'd like to give back to the ranch, like we ask people to give back to the ranch for food and stuff. But if you like need to save up for something and you can't that month, like, it's not a big deal. Like, we all just kind of, we're all just here to make it. So we kind of have one group business account that everybody has access to. And then people have their own bank accounts or do whatever they want. And then as far as like ranch stuff goes, it gets paid for out of that, feeding the animals and processing and, all that. It comes out of that, the ranch's money. Any projects that we're like saving up for, we have like a savings account that we all agree to the project, and then we just start saving money for it. Yeah, I mean, it's like complicated in a good way, like.
We try to, if we can just have the one primary bank account, it'd be a lot easier. But right now, because of the move, we had to like open up another one locally, and it's a bit of a juggle to make everything work, right?
Because we pay the bills out of the main account too, and just all that stuff. But yeah, we had to like get a bank up here because the bank we used down there didn't have like any offices.
It's 3 hours away to the nearest branch.
So it's like, can't do that.
For sure. So with being a bunch of trans people out, out in rural Colorado, how is the healthcare situation? How do y'all manage with that? Are there any difficulties, getting access to hormone or transition related care?
So some of us have Kaiser, and there's Kaiser in Pueblo, so it's not that far away. And Kaiser's really good with trans-related care. My girlfriend does all her hormones out of them. Yeah, it really it isn't an issue. It wouldn't be any different anywhere where we were. We hope to get the entire ranch healthcare as soon as like this year's processing is done, because this is the first year we've been able to process all of our fiber at once. And so we hope that will allow us to get healthcare going for everybody. But then there's doctors and stuff here within range and stuff. So it really hasn't been an issue.
That's good, because I've heard people voice concerns about that. So that's a good thing. Yeah. So if someone wants to be involved in a project like this, but they don't want to be on the wait list for Tenacious Unicorn Ranch in particular, what would you say are the requirements needed to start something like this? Like, what is the baseline in terms of if someone wanted to create a ranch or a farm or something like this in general? What would you say is the baseline of requirements in terms of experience or in terms of money or something like that to get this started? I know that's sort of a big question, but what do you need in order to make something like this feasible to start?
We've actually considered doing a multi-part video series to explain like all of that.
Yeah, which is like, and we'll definitely go into it. Like it's it is such a multifaceted thing. I think that it does boil down to just getting out there and doing it. Like
That's the first step.
Yeah,
sure.
and that is one of the harder steps where it's like, but what about this and what about this? It's like, yeah, no, that's terrifying. Like you're
Yeah,
right. That's absolutely terrifying. You still got to do it. I don't know. Like
yeah, the shit ain't easy. So
yeah, I mean, if you're really gonna go for it, I think that being able to come up with enough, like you should have a group of people like that. You should talk about it. You should plan it. You should pool resources. Trying to just like do it all at once by yourself and then pull people in, which is what I did, was really difficult and led to some really like poor choices in asking people to come up and take a position, as opposed to like the people at first were people who were like like you don't need help, like you just gotta come up and like we're gonna do this. And being desperate for like money or being desperate for like warm bodies to help with the work makes you kind of like compromise on your decision making. So I think that going in with a set team where you're all like committed to it, and like I know there's no way to like predict commitment, but like there are like do a little bit of vetting, like be realistic about what people are capable of, and either work that in or find another person. Like we all have flaws or whatever. That's not what it's about.
Yeah, getting it started versus like trying to get a place where like people can just exist is a very different thing. And you really need the people that are committed and like on the same page as you to dive in, commit in every way to make sure that it happens, and work together to figure out how to solve all your problems. Like that you need to gel.
Yeah, if you haven't like if you have ego problems around somebody, or if you can't like if your teamwork isn't really on par, then it's going to be rough. Like it's still like not off the table. It's just going to be rough. But then other than that, with a good team and a tenacity, if you will, you can do it. Like you just have to pick something and go for it. Like you can study on the fly, like you can learn things on the go. You don't have to be an expert about shit. Like it isn't about having all the knowledge then going forth. Like you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna make really bad mistakes, and then you'll be fine. Like you'll like that's just one more mental scar. Moving on. Like
Absolutely. So in the future, do you have any plans or any dreams for what you hope Tenacious Unicorn Ranch can grow into over, say, the next 5 or 10 years? Like, what is your sort of ideal future for this project?
Well, not only do we hope to be a town at some point, we want to also we want to help people be able to start their own projects and create a massive network across the country. to have a safe place and like good places for people to be if they need to change the scenery and stuff.
Yeah, well, and we want to be in a position where if structures are still the same in the US in like 5-10 years, we want to be in a position where we can do cosigns so people don't have to go through like the renting kind of deal, and we can do like starter herds and like supply people their chickens and stuff, so that it's like we can just seed Tenacious Unicorn kind of all over the place, because we can't run something that big, but we can definitely get people who are like committed to the same kind of like queer ideas and everything, just get them going. Like it's not even about like us having a stake in it. We just want to get them going and then go find somebody else to like open up and do this with. We really should be taking like these country spaces way more back for queer folk. Like being in the country as a queer person is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely cities have their benefits, but personally, as someone who's been living in LA for the past 10 years, when I've had experience living in rural areas, I miss being able to just go outside and not see anybody, especially if I don't feel like shaving that day, right?
Right?
Well, absolutely. I guess, are there any other sort of aspects of life on the ranch that you think people might be interested in? Any interesting stories you want to tell?
Oh, so many. I no, I don't know. Yeah, like definitely Bonnie coming to the ranch was huge. And even when Jay came out, like that was kind of a big deal. Like just kind of drove out, showed up, started working. Like I don't know, we have a lot of like interesting things happen on kind of a daily basis. Like it's always there's always a crisis or two. We had 3 baby Kriya this year.
Yeah, all of a sudden.
They're adorable.
Yeah,
but they were not planned. Like just all of a sudden we figured out that 3 of our girls were pregnant when we found one of the babies cavorting in the pen. Like nothing had happened.
Yeah, you just froze all of a sudden mid conversation and we were just staring out the door.
It was the weirdest, most alien thing I've ever seen. I was like, why is there a small alpaca in with the big alpaca? We don't have any small alpaca. And then we just found a baby, and then we did a whole herd check, and we found 2 more preggers girls, and so we're up to 3 Kriya right now. There may be more. Like who knows? Yeah, I don't know. Like that was a huge thing. Naga having puppies was a huge thing. So we were right at the verge, right before the move. Things were bleak. Like it was getting rough to keep things going. Like the landlords were making it really difficult. The rent was just draining us. Bonnie and Sky showed up, and like we were kind of getting back on our feet, but it was like a struggle. And we had a donor come out of literally nowhere and gave us enough money to clear all of the debt that had been like a problem and get like back on our feet and get ahead. And like it was a sizable donation out of just like understanding what we were doing and then like just sending in a check. And it was like one of those moments where you're just like, holy crap, like people did what we're doing. Like this is real. Because like it really wasn't like when you're in the middle of it doing stuff, like we fenced this entire property in a snowstorm.
Yeah.
1.5 miles of fence. 4 queer people just fenced the fucking property. And shit like that. Like when you're in the middle of it, it's just horrible. But then afterwards, you're like, oh shit, like we could like do this. This is kind of baller. Like people,
Yeah,
people dig us. Like people see us out here, and it's like they're making it happen. Like I don't know.
Yeah, community has definitely been a massive part of our success in general. Like people want this to happen, and there's been whispers about it for a long time, and we're finally doing it. So people want to see that it can happen.
Yeah, and people really get on board. Like it's been humbling, is what it's been. It's
Absolutely.
It's like we're caretakers of an idea, and that gives so many queer folk hope, and we don't want to fuck it up. Like we don't want to fuck that dream up. We want it to be as real as people think as it can be, because it's going to get rough. I don't we all talk about it quite a bit up here about like everything that's happening right now.
The world's getting scary.
The world's getting scary. Things are happening, and it's not going to slow down. And I think that hope matters. Like it's just the angle that we come at this from is like, this is a very, very precious gift to the world that like we didn't, there's no originality of concept. Every trans person talks about starting a commune. Like we claim no like special, like this was our idea. No.
That's literally how I heard about this place. I like posted on Twitter like trans commune win, and somebody just linked the page, and I was like, oh my god, this is relatively close to me. It was like a day's drive, and like just immediately, like I literally made a list of questions and sent it to Penny.
And then she just drove out. Like it was like, okay, done. Like I think that being in charge of something like that, being involved in something like that, carries with it a huge amount of responsibility to just make it the best thing that it can be, you know? And maybe we don't ever get more than 80 people up here. It depends on how much land we can get. But it touches so many more people to see that it's possible and that like something like this exists. So we take it really seriously. Like, I don't know, but yeah, like cool shit happens every day. Like, every day.
Awesome. And I think that's a really good way to approach something like this. So I think we're going to wrap up for now. I heard y'all mentioned that you're doing a fundraiser to buy some more land. Do you want to go ahead and plug that real quick? And I'll go ahead and put a link in the description.
Oh, great. Yeah, we are. It's on GoFundMe. It's under Tenacious Unicorn Ranch. I think it brings it right up. The link is in our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram account bio, and we tweet about it all the time on our Twitter account, Tenacious Ranch at twitter.com.
At Tenacious Ranch.
Yeah, at Tenacious Ranch. I'm not cool. And then yeah, we have the GoFundMe. We do have our shirts available on Redbubble, yeah. And we have an Etsy shop as well.
Oh yeah, that's
where you can get our yarn. And that's kind of our main gig. I should definitely mention that.
So once we have a mushroom farm up and stuff like that, we plan on selling it through there too.
Yeah, we'll sell fresh mushrooms on Etsy as well. It's going to be wonderful.
Nice. Well, thank you so much to all of you for taking the time to talk with me. And definitely you're doing something very cool and worthwhile. And honestly, I'm very jealous. But yeah, it's definitely great to hear that y'all are making it work out there.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for having us on, and definitely come visit sometime.
Oh, totally. I'll see if I can drive out once the pandemic is over.
Right? As soon as contact's allowable again. Jeez.
Well, thank you so much. Have a good one. Solidarity.
Thanks for having us.
Have a good one.
Solidarity.